Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to today's webinar, Enhancing Data Quality for SAP and Enterprise Systems. My name is Glenn Johnson. I'm a Senior Vice President here at Magic Software Enterprises in the Americas, and I'm joined today by Or Gott. Welcome, Or.
Hey, Glenn.
And welcome to each of you in today's webinar. We thank you for joining us, and we would ask that if you have any questions for or myself, that you enter those into the chat box or the Q&A box, and we will be happy to take those questions at the conclusion of our formal presentation here right at the beginning. So with that brief introduction, let's go ahead and begin looking at the topic of enhancing data quality for SAP and your other enterprise systems. We'll be looking at this from the perspective of users of SAP ERP systems. There are a variety of different versions of those systems that are in the market, of course, that are in use by enterprises today. So whether you're on older versions of SAP R3 or newer versions of SAP ECC and the various releases in between, this discussion will be relevant to your SAP installation. And in fact, the solution that we'll be showing you today is based on the Magic XPI integration platform and the MatchIT Help IT Hub, which provides the data quality component and capabilities, not only from the standpoint of initial data, but also data quality in existing and ongoing processes. So we are often asking for the truth in IT. We say we want clean data, and sometimes I feel like we're confronted by Jack Nicholson, who says, you want the truth, you can't handle the truth, because there are so many versions of the truth in IT systems. The same systems, whether they be our ERP systems such as SAP or other systems either provided by SAP or third parties that handle CRM, e-commerce, product lifecycle management, and a number of other enterprise business functions also have use of the same information, but sometimes there are multiple versions of that same information. So what exists in the real world as the truth and how our various enterprise systems record that data are often two different things, and this is, of course, the challenge of data quality. It's been said that we can't handle that truth, that there are too many versions in IT, and so this is the way that we begin this discussion of how do we deal with the ambiguity, the errors, all the problems that creep into data over time, and particularly as it applies to integration processes, where when we're integrating two different systems, it's a very likely point of introducing data quality issues, errors, duplications, and so on. So the purpose of the webinar is to show you a solution to SAP data quality issues in the form of Magic XPI and the Magic XPI's MatchIT component for the MatchIT Hub. And so when you're using an integration server, of course, you're connecting information and business processes between different systems, the ERP, the CRM, and so on, as we mentioned. This will involve scheduling of events. It will involve the web services, publish and subscribing to service-oriented types of activities in a SOA environment. It will involve invoking flows and triggers in a real-time event-driven architecture. It will involve messaging queues, routing of information, and doing all of that in a server environment that allows you to deal with business process exceptions, error conditions, have built-in recovery processes. And in order to do this, you'll be working with a lot of metadata You'll have operational data stores that also relate to your ability to monitor what's going on in a back-end server environment. And so these kinds of capabilities, when paired with data quality solutions, give you the real integration solution that you need for SAP in a way that's going to help ensure that your data is brought up to quality and then that quality is maintained over time. Now, with ERP systems, we deal with a lot of different kinds of data. We deal with transactional data, we deal with master item data, and we deal with customer data. Today's webinar focuses on customer data quality issues, and that is what we'll be demonstrating. There are other very, very similar conversations we could be having about transactional and master item data, but those are different areas, and especially transactional is quite a different discussion. But master item data is another discussion that we can have as it relates to product master item data, but with customers, we're right in the heart of today's subject matter. Now, when we look at SAP, there are a lot of master tables related to, or customer master tables that are related to the information and contain the information and data specific to customers. If we look, for example, at just the first one, the most important one is the general data in the customer master, and this is the table CAN A1. With this table, there are 169 fields. Various data types, links, descriptions, and so on. And so we bring this up not to discourage you, but to remind us all of the relative complexity of the amount of information that we're talking about. The most important information, you tend to see right here at the beginning of the record, but there are certainly a variety of different pieces of information, and so a duplicate creates a huge ripple effect. If we make that mistake right in the beginning when we're using things like, name, address, phone number, email, and so on to identify individuals and organizations, a duplicate has a huge kind of a data tidal wave tsunami effect in the system because there's so much associated to a customer record. There's so much involved in a customer record. So what we provide at Magic Software is an integration platform that allows you to connect things like CRM. Let's say you're running Salesforce.com. Let's say you're running Agile PLM or Siemens Team Center PLM or Dassault Systems Zenobia, whatever it might be. Other CRM systems as well. Sugar, Microsoft Dynamics, even. Whatever it is that you're running in these environments, there are a variety of different systems that are touching customer data. Certainly your e-commerce platforms are going to be dealing with a lot of that customer-related information especially. So these are areas where you're likely to find duplicates creeping into the system, and you're likely to see data quality issues and errors and verifications that need to take place and so on. And so with an integration platform, you're performing the necessary step of bringing this information together between these two systems, of connecting processes, logical things like CRM system. You create opportunities that are related to leads and customers and contacts and so forth. And when those opportunities close, they become an order. And an order is a very relevant thing, obviously, for your ERP system in SAP. And that opportunity to order conversion process will introduce incoming data from CRM to SAP. And that incoming data could be a part of your data quality challenge and issue. Duplication and so forth needs to be guarded against, and that's part of what we'll discuss. So having an integration platform that allows you to design those integration business processes visually through a drag, drop, and configure approach really makes it much more straightforward. Configuring is something that means that you're dealing with the specific capabilities of the target systems, such as Salesforce, the specific data structures, field structures that have been read in from those systems, because as we all understand, there's often going to be a lot of customization that's taking place. You can customize even SaaS-based solutions like Salesforce. You can obviously customize your SAP object structures and naming conventions and so forth. And so when you do that, you're going to want to have an integration platform that reads in that customization and allows you to work then through a dialog box level interface with that data, rather than having to write line by line code, getting involved with Java and all of these approaches that are much less efficient and productive, obviously. So that will make it possible for you to do data mapping and so forth in regards to executing integration process flows, and that's going to help you to streamline and overcome complexity. So just to quickly summarize the capabilities of an integration platform like MatchIT XPI, that allows you to do process orchestration, to do it in a code-free manner, to do it visually, to take advantage of the reusability of business processes and services in a service-oriented architecture, to add data quality checkpoints throughout your integration processes, and to do so in a highly robust fashion, one that is very scalable, built on the principles of in-memory architecture, and so on. So these capabilities are things that you should look for in your integration platform, and one that is going to give you that kind of ability to eliminate duplicate records in your system. Now, as we look at the MatchIT component, what it is then doing is that XPI is calling your data quality solution, MatchIT, in order to make certain that your SAP data is of the highest quality, that you've eliminated duplicates coming in from these various systems. So MatchIT XPI has a MatchIT component, and that MatchIT component works with the MatchIT Hub. The MatchIT Hub is a data quality solution. So you're able to deduplicate large databases and data sets of any size. You're utilizing the simplicity of MatchIT XPI in introducing these data quality component capabilities into your integration processes. Both systems, both MatchIT XPI and MatchIT, are based on in-memory computing, and therefore, just like systems like SAP HANA, which many of you are probably familiar with, that have really touted the advantages of in-memory, you're getting the fast processing that's really important when doing these outperforming these massive algorithms that relate to data quality and deduplication. So the hub scales very efficiently, processing high volumes of data, and it's going to maximize the matching that occurs in a very automated batch-oriented approach. So you can process individual records, and you can enable streaming of data for real-time matching as well, because of the combination of the integration flow with the MatchIT Hub capabilities for data quality and deduplication. You're keeping things clean right from the beginning, rather than introducing errors in an integration step and then having to have a secondary process that relates to batch-oriented steps of the database at later times. That's nice, but the problem with that, of course, is what happens in real time in those gaps between when you've cleaned up your data and when you haven't. So why not introduce data quality right into the integration process flow? It makes sense to me, and I think to those of you who are on the call. So you can do that by empowering and using functionality. Some of the key functionality that's included in this solution would be things like intelligent fuzzy matching of data. We've all are familiar with fuzzy matching. Well, that is an approach which, utilized here, helps you to find duplicates. We'll talk specifically about how that is. You're going to be able to match at multiple levels simultaneously, person, family, company, location, and so forth. You're going to be able to deal with things like name splitting, genderization of names, salutation generation, and so forth. To deal with data standardization and casing issues, you can screen for garbage entries, incomplete and poor quality data. You're able to drag and drop all of this through MatchIT XPI flows, making it very easy to configure and to monitor, because you can see how these flows are executing, the latency, any error conditions that are occurring, and the monitoring capability adds a great dimension to all this. So with a data quality approach that is being offered here, you have deduplication, validation, data cleansing options that are available. MatchIT XPI is utilizing, as we said, MatchIT, which is from Help IT Systems. That component becomes part of a business process within a MatchIT XPI flow and allows you to apply very advanced algorithms that are offering a very high degree of accuracy in various fuzzy and phonetic matching algorithms that are applied, which is reducing your master data management costs and really empowering your organization to achieve a higher level of business process accuracy. So the matching strategies that are employed are things like parsing and restructuring, phonetic matching, element matching, and name lexicons. With parsing and restructuring, you're able to identify and relocate data to its correct fields, for example. We've all, experienced interacting with a table where all of a sudden the columns shift and get off and so forth. It finds those kinds of issues, and it's able to split unstructured names into their component parts so that name becomes first name, last name, and so on. There's also phonetic matching strategies which allow you to convert a field into its phonetic equivalent. And we can look at examples of each of these. So as we look at the parsing and restructuring, there are things like splitting prefixes and forenames and things like that. With phonetic matching, things like shore and shaw, they sound the same, depending upon which part of the country or the world you're from. Silva and silver sound the same. Ball and Bailey sound the same. They're different, but they might be considered a match by some pseudo-phonetic matching algorithms. So we need to look at these kinds of rules for phonetic matching just to make sure that we recognize the difference between real name differences and similar kinds of names that are just spelled differently or were misunderstood when they were entered and that kind of thing. There's also element matching within names. Dr. John Doe, DCH, and Doe John, are all referring to the same individual, but simply are laid out differently in terms of the elements. And then there are name abbreviations, forms of names, nicknames, Bill, William, Elizabeth, Betty, and so on. Some known nickname associations have nothing to do with even the sound of the words that are involved. As we look at other matching strategies that are incorporated, there's acronym and initial matching. So you might have the Department of Water and Power, or the DWP. You might have Tony and A, which Layton, which would be Tony Layton, Mr. A. Layton, are these the same person? Anthony and Tony being forms of the same name, and so on. Business word identification. Legal and General Assurance Society Limited matches Legal and General. Auto and Motors are equivalent. Bijouterie and Jewelry are equivalent. You also have non-phonetic fuzzy matching. Wilson, Whistlon, Wilson without an O, things like this, Morton and Horton. So the algorithms applied are very sophisticated, even internationalization of spelling of things. Particularly place names often are spelled differently in different languages, Brussels and Bruxelles, street and Stras, and so forth. So these various kinds of matching strategies are applied, and from the application of this, your data quality improves dramatically. You get much improved business processes and performance. First of all, it's very easy to connect all of this. You get strong performance. You have a single view of customer data instead of split and duplicate records. It avoids the manual deduplication efforts, keeps the requirement for those human decisions about matched data to a minimum, finds dupes more accurately, working with huge amounts of data. It's very simple to implement in Magic XPI Studio, as we'll show you in a moment, and it's an affordable solution as well, which I think is very important to a lot of you who are on the call. So what I'd like to do at this point is actually share, change presenter role here to Orr so that he can share his desktop and talk to us about the SAP integration and data quality and those things that we've been talking about in today's webinar. Orr?
Hey, Glenn. Hello, everyone. So, as Glenn mentioned, I will show you physical integration with SAP with a data cleansing component, the MatchIT component for Magic XPI in between. And I just want to take a minute or two to build a scenario along with you so that eventually what I show you, the actual demonstration that I'll show you, will be as part of a real-life scenario. It will be something that we can all agree can happen or does currently happen in your companies. And based on that, we've built the physical integration process. Of course, if you have any questions at the end, you can fire them away and we'll do our best to answer. So, integration that I'm going to show you, the scenario that I'm going to show you is integration between SAP and a CRM system, Salesforce, for example. Now, the reason that this is what you're doing is it's something that we've encountered here. We have salespeople working on Salesforce, and we have our ERP system as SAP. And salespeople go to events, meet people, try to convince people to join as customers. And we had, in more than one occasion, 2 different salespeople speaking to the same customer and adding them as leads to their respective Salesforce accounts. Now, the reason, I mean, if you just enter the lead in the same name, Salesforce will grab it, but there was a slight spelling mistake, or there was a different address, or some of the data that is key data in Salesforce wasn't exactly the same. And therefore, 2 records were created. Later on, we got to a problem when we wanted to convert that lead into an actual account. Which lead should we read? Which of the names of the in Salesforce should we actually take and make into something in SAP? It's not only that. When we write the address, when a salesperson talks to someone and writes his address in Salesforce, for example, he does it while talking to this guy. He might mistype an address, maybe just the billing street, or maybe just the city or the state, or something very small and insignificant. But it becomes significant when eventually this data is pushed over to SAP, because I want to be able to bill. And the address, if I took it from Salesforce, if I took it from my CRM, needs to be accurate. So with that in mind, this is the process that I'm going to show you. Let me take you over to my Salesforce screen. And we look at a specific view which has a bunch of accounts in it. And for example, let's dive into one of the accounts. It has a billing street, an address, and so on. And as you can see, the And as you can see, the name is Mr. Matthew Casper, because one salesperson added him as Mr. Matthew Casper. However, I also have a Matt Casper, which, if we speak English, we kind of understand could be the same person. If I'll dive into it, I'll see that it's actually the same person. Same goes to Mr. E. Simmons and Errol Simmons here. Even though the name Simmons and Simmons are not spelled the same way, and I have Errol as a first name here and Mr. E as a first name here, those are the type of things that I would like my fuzzy matching algorithm to catch before the data is actually being pushed into my ERP system and into where I do my accounting, into SAP. So that is why we have a process, a general integration process that we've shown a lot of times before. This is what we do on a daily basis here at MatchIT using our MatchIT XPI platform. We integrate Salesforce to SAP or another CRM to another ERP, to again Salesforce to SAP or another CRM to another ERP. It doesn't really matter which ones. So we have a process in between to grab the duplicates. I want to see duplicates, and let's go over the list just real quick. You see that Mr. Errol Simmons is Mr. E. Simmons, probably, could be a duplicate. We see that Mr. Matthew Casper is Matt Casper, could be, but the rest of the records are actual records. So what I would like for an automatic process to do, because integration is eventually an automatic process, is to create those 6 non-duplicate records in SAP, but to grab the 4 records that are duplicate and to allow a human intervention step saying, okay, these are duplicates, let's remove one, remove the other, consolidate, maybe they are not duplicates, and so on. So we do not handle in this project the duplicates automatically, even though of course we have the capability. So this is the project that I wanted to show you, and it does whatever standard MatchIT XPI project are usually doing. We use a Salesforce connector to grab information off of the account object. We query, we get the fields that we need. MatchIT XPI provides you these adapters and connectors that lets you use functionality of the end system, SAP or Salesforce, and you don't really have to type the code into how exactly do you want to execute things. All you do is the what. I want to query the account object. Once I get the data, I will call the MatchIT step, which will compare the records and create a clean record set. And then I will continue down the branch calling either JD or SAP. We have adapters for both, and this project actually inserts eventually the records into both. And when I insert into SAP, again, I don't have to write the how exactly do you want me to insert, only the what. I'm using an RFC, this is the group name, this is the BAPI name that I'm going to call. Once we have that set, MatchIT actually shows you the description of the BAPI and lets you map into the fields of the destination the values coming from the clean list. I'll dive into the SAP component in a second and show you exactly what we do here, but let me show you the result by simply running this project and not even running it as a server, running it in debug mode, showing you that this is how we develop in MatchIT. Okay, after we put a few components here, basically create our project, we don't immediately push it to production, even though there's an old saying, I don't always test my code, but when I do it in production. But to get serious, we want to be able to test our code using a debugger and step by step seeing exactly what happens. So I'll just set up a breakpoint here after the Salesforce step, and I'm going to click play. And once the engine starts running, I will show you how we get actually the list of objects from Salesforce. Then I'm going to let the process run, and I'll show you the result as created in SAP or in the result of the clean data, and what are the capabilities of human intervention basically. So the project ran past the first step in debug mode, and I got back a list. Currently it's in XML, that's what the Salesforce usually sends back to us, but we can see the names and including the duplicates as I'll go down here. And we can see the different values of addresses of Mr. E. Simmons and so on. So these are the values that eventually I want to compare. This is how we debug in MatchIT API. If I click play again, you'll see the end result of what I wrote, and then I'll walk you step by step of what exactly we did here. Basically, MatchIT will now push the information into SAP and JDE, create a clean list, and send an email to me, as you can see here. And I'll show you my email. And this is what I just got. These are the addresses that were created in SAP, 6 addresses as you can see. And this is the list of duplicates that we got from Salesforce that were not pushed to SAP. We get the matching group, we get the account name, which lets us see, is it actually a duplicate, yes or no. We can see a matching score. The matching score is basically what we get out of the MatchIT component. Everything is settable. You can set everything, but it's good to use other people's experience. A matching score of above 80 means that it is probably most definitely a duplicate. Above 90 is a duplicate. So that's a rule that I set. If it's above 90, just push it to this list and show me. And actually, I did, besides sending the email with the duplicates, I did another thing. I added everything to SharePoint. MatchIT also has a SharePoint component, and the cool thing about SharePoint, it lets me post the list into a list in SharePoint. This is SharePoint, and if I click the integration duplicate list, I will now see those 4 records of Mr. Earl Simmons, E. Simmons, Matt Casper, Matthew Casper. And because it's online, because it's a browser, it's HTML, I can click this and go directly to the account, meaning this is my human intervention step in between. Yeah, Mr. Earl Simmons and E. Simmons are exactly the same person. I'll delete one of them if I want. Okay, so it's just another capability of doing something. Of course, I can do it in an email, push the information of duplicates into a database, push it to a simple file and present the file, however you want me to do it. SharePoint is just a cooler way of doing it. And that's it. The records were created in SAP. The clean records, we got the IDs back, and so on. So just want to show you just a little bit about our SAP component because we promised a lot regarding SAP in this demonstration. So MatchIT XPI provides an SAP component that lets you talk to, as Glenn mentioned, the various versions of SAP, ECC6, R3, all-in-one, and so on. The interface is the SAP JCO interface. It's the Java interface into SAP. And the reason I'm mentioning it is it's very important to understand that when you use a connector in MatchIT XPI, you use the application functionality. You do not just write into a database. SAP, specifically for me, sits on an MS SQL somewhere. I can go to the tables, the various tables that Glenn showed you, and just push the data in there. When we write an automatic integration process, if we'll push to the database, we will most probably break something. There are a lot of internal data validations that are being executed by the application that we want to take. We want to use the same functionality that someone pushing the data from SAP UI is using. But we want to do it programmatically. If I'll go to the database and I'll do an insert into a customer table, I didn't validate that the customer doesn't exist somewhere. I didn't validate the addresses are in a specific order. I didn't validate that the zip code is an actual zip code of the state that the customer belongs to. Those are all internal validations that the system may or may not have, but I want to use them. So we use the JCO adapter in order to call BAPIs and RFCs in SAP, and this is the interface that we have. And all you have to do, again, you don't have to program, you don't have to write line by line how I want to call SAP, just what I want to use an IDOC or an RFC, and then just know the name of the RFC. It can be the BAPI customer master of master data to create a customer. It can be the different matmasters that people are using in SAP to create the item master. It can be whatever type of group or RFC name that you want. Once you click OK, this is what you get, and this is what I wanted to show you. You get the description of the RFC in SAP. MatchIT will go and fetch the description of that RFC, including user-defined fields, if you have in those RFCs, or it's a user-defined RFC to begin with. And then it lets you map from source to destination into the different fields in the BAPI or RFC that you're using. And basically this is all it leaves you with when you want to push the clean data into SAP. Take the clean data set, which was created by the MatchIT component, and map it into the destination. And again, it goes, for example, address 1 to address 1, which would be, what is street, address 2 to address 2, which would be house number, company to company, and so on. And let's do zip to zip, postal, and so on. This is how I connect source and destination. It's very important to elaborate at this point that when you connect source and destination, data is coming in from Salesforce and is being pushed to SAP. Sometimes we need to have the capability to convert the data in between. For example, in Salesforce, name is just one instance, one element. First name and last name are held in one element. In SAP, it's first name and last name. So I need to be able to break it into the two. I do it by connecting name to first name and last name, double-clicking, and I can use functions in order to do what it is that I want to do. For example, I would use an str token, of the string coming from the left, take the first token of space. So basically I will break the name coming from Salesforce into before the space and after the space, and I will take first name as the first token. And there are 600 or so functions that you can use, all dedicated to integration needs. But that's just an example of how you do it. The idea is to know that you have the capability to convert data between source and destination applications, because the data is not always consistent or is being held in the same way. Basically, this is what I wanted to show you. I would be glad to answer any questions if you have some. Glenn?
Great, thank you, Or. Sorry about that, I had to get the mute button off there. Thanks for the demonstration, and we would like to open it to your questions at this time. If you have any questions for Or or myself, please enter them into the Q&A or the chat box. The chat box gives you privacy in asking your questions. Feel free to do either of that. I did have one question, or can the SharePoint app that you showed be built to bring like field level data into a human interface for a side-by-side merge process?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
So could you, we were able to look at the records in the SharePoint app that you showed.
Yeah.
Would we be able to build that SharePoint app in such a way that we could see the fields side by side as well?
Yeah, of course, of course. The SharePoint connector, the SAP connector, the Salesforce connector, which I've showed you, all have the same interface in MatchIT. All you have to do is define the list, define the object in SharePoint that you want to work with. What is the entity? It's type list. What is the actual entity? The integration duplicate. What is it that you want to do? You want to add. And then basically you get the same screen where that list is being described to you by MatchIT. MatchIT goes and fetches the description of that list, and then you can map to different fields in that list. So of course you can do it side by side by adding more columns to that list and then adding data coming from Salesforce, SAP, or wherever you want it to come from, and present it in SharePoint.
Okay. Will this work with DB2 and DB2 400?
Yeah, so regardless of what database you're using, MatchIT can use. MatchIT has native gateways to DB2, DB2 Pervasive SQL, Oracle MS SQL, but it also has an ODBC gateway, which means any ODBC, if you work with any type of database other than what I've mentioned, as long as you have an ODBC driver, we can work with it.
And is a solution like MatchIT compliant with SAP support requirements?
Glenn, I think you're better to answer than I am.
Well, I mean, you were talking about how it uses the business objects instead of writing directly to the database. So that's obviously how you get SAP certified. MatchIT XPI is SAP certified, so that's probably
yeah, we actually
a good requirement there. I don't know exactly what SAP support requirements would be, but when you can say, well, this is an SAP certified app, then basically they're going to continue supporting it, is my understanding.
Yeah, we moved to the latest JCO API about 3 or 4 versions ago of MatchIT. We moved from another API that, forgive me for not remembering the name, I can look at the past release notes and tell you. We did that because SAP recommends it. So if SAP provides down the line somewhere a new API that's more recommended for integration, MatchIT does the effort for you of writing the adapter around the new API.
Great. Well, that looks like that's all the questions we have coming in at this point, Or. So thank you very much for your demonstration. Thanks to all of you for joining us. We do appreciate it, and we want to continue the conversation. So if you have any further questions or interest in seeing more of this for yourself or your team, please contact us at info@magicsoftware.com by email, or if you want to give us a phone call, you can reach us in the U.S. at 949-250-1718, extension 259. And if you are outside of North America, outside of the U.S. and Canada, you can find a list of other contact information on the MatchIT Software website at www.magicsoftware.com. Thanks again, Or, and thanks to you all for joining us.
Thank you.